Okay, so ready.
You're right, John.
All right, everybody. I'd like to call the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of October 17th, 2024 to order. We have one public hearing scheduled for this evening, so I want to take just a few minutes to review the process for public hearings in the current hybrid format of our meetings. Janet, can you hear us okay? During the public hearing, I insist that we treat each other respectfully, do not interrupt, and follow the required structure of the meeting. Everyone will be given a fair opportunity to hear, review, submit, and comment on the testimony and evidence the commission will use to render a decision. All speakers must be recognized by the chair before being allowed to speak. As a reminder, we on the commission are here to listen and ask questions of the applicant. We should refrain from conversations with attendees. And I ask that all cell phones be silenced during the meeting. Steps for conducting a public hearing are as follows. Step 1, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The applicant or staff will share all application materials on the screen as needed. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. Step 2, commissioners will ask clarifying questions before speaking. Each commissioner will be recognized by the chair. Step 3, attendees will have an opportunity for clarifying questions and comments. Anyone who wishes to speak must raise their hand and be recognized by the chair before they speak. For Zoom attendees, please raise your hand through the Zoom platform and wait to be called on and unmuted. As this public hearing must be recorded, attendees will state their names and addresses before asking their questions or making statements. According to Connecticut land use law, cross-examination of persons testifying is allowed, but cross-examination of commissioners is not. Step 4, the applicant will have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners and must be given the opportunity to speak again without interruption. Once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Land Use Department at 203-245-5631 after 9 a.m. All actions taken tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. Seated this evening are members, and this is Mike in alphabetical order: Mike Bogda, Jeff Downs, John Duza, Bob O'Connor, Janet Peckinpah joining us on Zoom, Andy Rubin, and myself, Carol Snow, Chair. Staff present this evening is Aaron Mannix, Town Planner. This meeting is live streamed on YouTube and will be made available on the town website for viewing. And the Town Planner will now read the legal notice. Actually, do you need to, Aaron, if it's a continuation?
No, we don't, because it's continuation. We already read it on the evening.
Great,
Hearing
okay.
opened.
So we'll jump right into the agenda with our public hearing, which is 24-28, 454 Horsepond Road, map 84, lot 28, zone RU1, owner 454 Horsepond LLC, applicant Mack Building LLC. Petition for zone boundary change pursuant to section 27 to change the designation of the land from RU1 district to open space conservation district for a 4-lot subdivision. And this has been continued from our October 3rd, 2024 meeting.
Thank you.
For positioning, Madam Chair, just before you start, our microphone is here on this. I'm happy if you're sharing. These are the same plans that we have as PDF, so I can screen share them for attendees who are remote, and then the commission can look at the paper or the screen.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Aaron.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Chris McKeon. My office is at 900 Chapel Street in New Haven, Connecticut. I live here in town at 31 Hotchkiss Lane. I am here tonight on behalf of the applicant, making 2 applications, really. The first, which is the cause for the public hearing, is a zone change application under our regulation section 27, which allows for an open space conservation district in which a subdivision can be applied for, which is the second application, and they come in tandem. This particular application was before your commission on an informal basis last summer to seek some input and feedback. The project has been shaped and changed since that time. We filed the application, which was received in August. it has been continued while we continue to refine our presentation tonight. And since last summer, when the applicant was before the commission informally, I know of one other open space conservation district and subdivision that was approved by the commission, in fact, almost a year ago. And that was the subdivision at Barberry Hill Farm. The back rear corner of Fort Path and Stony Lane is now an open space conservation district and subdivision. There are several throughout the town. I don't know if you took a look at the zoning map, but a lot of neighborhoods you probably know and are familiar with are in fact open space conservation subdivisions. The project engineer from the get-go is Bob Doan, and I'll turn the floor over to him shortly. He has been before the commission last summer on an informal basis. He also went through the inland wetlands process, which was involved and resulted in a thorough and detailed approval of not only the favorable recommendation of the subdivision, but an actual regulated activity permit to allow for a wetland crossing, which is important to this particular subdivision because it is a centralized access and infrastructure, and it allows for a more condensed or cluster of housing, which allows for the open space to be preserved. In this case, 61% of the site that's open space. Since the wetlands approval, this step, the zone change and the corresponding subdivision approval really is the last step in the process. So Bob Doan will address you first, and then I wanted to explain what we've done over the last several weeks, which is we sought the input of outside and independent professionals, both from a planning and zoning compliance perspective, but also in this sort of unique circumstance, there's an environmental and ecology and soil science and other environmental angle here, because the purpose of the regulation is to allow for smaller lots with homes on them. And the trade-off is that you're providing these areas of open space that will remain untouched and available for people to use and enjoy without swimming pools or structures or impervious coverage on the areas of open space. That review was done by SLR International Corporation. Again, they're certified planning staff, they're environmental ecologists, soil scientists, wetlands and waterways experts, all weighed in and produced a memo that we submitted today. And Julia Fiore, a senior planner with SLR International Corporation, will summarize their conclusions and findings for you. And that will be the end of our presentation in chief, if you will. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Doan to go through the application.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening. I'm Bob Doan, professional engineer and licensed land surveyor. My company is Stone Engineering, located in Centerbrook, and I've been working at engineering and surveying since 1966, and became a partner in 1982 with Radcliffe Engineering, and they bought them out in 1990 and started Doan Engineering. So we've been at it quite a while, but I'm here before you as is Chris, to present a zone change application for 8.8 acres located at 454 Horsepond Road. And on this, before you is a plan that is part of it was attached to the application that circles the perimeter of the 8.8 acres and simply labeled zone change on the plan. We have provided a legal description, meets and bounds description of the zone change. And we have sent the required notices to all the adjoiners within 500 feet of the boundary. We have designed an open space conservation subdivision in accordance with section 27. I computed the net land area, which is 7.16 acres. Those calculations are on the left-hand side of the page. And with the open space subdivision, we determine lot size and setbacks for the interior lots. For the exterior, we have a 25-foot buffer that wraps around the property and which is open space. I have highlighted those items on the third board. And if you want to share this, Aaron, Chris can email you a PDF of this exhibit. I scanned it in so that you could share it. It's the same plan, it's just highlighted. But in green are the two open space parcels. We have 2.71 acres of wooded open space on the, for general description, I'll refer to the top of the page as north. On the north side and the northwestern corner of the property. On the south side, there's a large field, and that is in the open space on the south side of the property. And you can see the 25-foot open space that goes to Horsepond Road. Together with that 25-foot buffer around the property, we have a 50-foot setback to any structures, which are required in the open space subdivision. The dimensions that I have for setback, I selected 20 feet, and I was working on a lot on, I don't know the subdivision, but I was working on a lot on Kaiser Lane that was from an open space subdivision. And I used the exact same lot size and setbacks that were used in that subdivision. So we have done extensive soil testing on the property. We did additional tests pursuant to Wren's requests when we started fine-tuning the locations of the sanitary systems. And I think my original plan when I was before you, I had sanitary systems a little bit closer to the downhill side of these lots, and we moved them back. We pulled them out of the 100-foot upland review area. A lot of those modifications took place when we took it through wetlands application. We had working for us, we had Richard Snarski, who helped us with plantings. And it was reviewed by Davison Environmental, and we worked with Matt Davison on the details to address all of the environmental concerns and impact concerns that wetlands have. And as Chris has mentioned, we did receive an approval from wetlands with a considerable lengthy approval, but it recognized the items that we are proposing. And one item is the stormwater wetlands that we are creating at the end of our private roadway. And that has been designed in accordance with the revised state requirements with the recharge and storage capabilities. We have a 4-bay in the basin, and I can go into whatever details you want after. I'll try to be as brief as possible to get through this, because I do recognize that our main application is the zone change, and it's being supported by the subdivision application. So anyway, that basin will be on this portion of the open space. It will be a created wetlands, very similar to the existing wetlands, and that was important in the design and review by the wetlands agency. We're proposing a private roadway, 18-foot wide pavement, and the stormwater runoff from this pavement and also this pavement comes down and enters the stormwater basin here just above the 4-bay. That's about it. We have the regulation for coverage in section 27 is 10% building coverage for the entire net buildable area. And I believe that we're at about 3% or so with what we show here, the 2,500 square foot footprint for each of the structures shown. So that is about it as far as our proposal. There was a concern that was expressed by an email that was granted or received today. And I don't know, Chris, if you want me to go into that now, or if you prefer to.
I think I'll address that
Okay.
once we present our application and
Okay,
see what other members of the public might have to say
All right.
as well.
then I will conclude.
So what are the lot sizes for those 4 properties?
Sorry.
They're about an acre.
Yes,
They are about it.
they are. Lot 3 is 41,600. Lot 4 is 36,000. Oh, these are smaller over here. Lot 2 is 26,000,
Those are
and
about half.
lot 1 is 27,000. I think my required was half acre or 21,750. And the areas are spelled out both here and on the text on the plan.
In that same vein, just so I'm clear, I read and then heard, I believe Attorney McKeon say that this was 8.8 acre property. You referenced something of 7.16 acres. Is there a difference in the building lot versus the lot?
What we have to do is run through the calculation from gross land
Gross,
area is 8.8. And you have the 8.8 less wetland area and less 5% for roads. And that results in 7.16 acres. And that becomes your net land area. And then from the net land area, you divide by the underlying zoning, which is the 80,000 square feet, and you get a number of lots. And then in your regulation, you have a additional 20%, and that's gets us from 3.9 to 4.68 units allowed. Okay, and for the purpose of this plan, a unit.
Helps with the math.
Yeah, a unit is a lot.
Now, there's already a home existing, right, on the home on the northern end of the property is already built, or is that different?
This is a separate lot,
Oh, okay, all right.
and this is under construction, but you bring up a good point. We do have the opportunity, it's really not part of this subdivision, but it's the same owner. And so we have the opportunity to access this off of the private road and bring them into the fold also.
Now it makes sense, because that was originally listed as like a 10-acre plus site.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
this-
okay, got it.
They were tied together at one time.
Got it.
They're not now.
This was the Daniel Hand property that
Right.
the house was torn down.
Yeah.
The barns.
Well, I drive by it every day, it was blight, so
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely not salvageable, unfortunately.
So, John Morgan here, the open space, how will the open space be, who owns the open space once we make the zoning change if we do?
I'll defer to council.
Yeah, I can address that. So the section 27 specifically gives a number of ways to do it. You can do it by way of a grant to the land trust. In the most recent one that your commission approved, which is also allowed under section 27, is you convey the property to an association. And so the way it will work here is the open space will be subjected to deed restrictions in terms of what can or can't happen on the open space. That deed restriction will also encumber the entire subdivision such that if you buy a lot in the subdivision, you're taking subject to those restrictions. But one of the provisions will require you as a lot owner to be a member of this homeowners association. The restriction, the homeowners association and its bylaws will be tasked with preserving the open space, maintaining the operations and maintenance plan, not just for the open space, but also for the wetlands, the stormwater management system. And that association, should it fail to carry out those responsibilities, section 27 authorizes the town to, as an enforcement measure, go and take care of those things and assess the owners of the subdivision. And that's all in section 27.
So when we say open space, it really is, it would be owned by the homeowner association. And they would use it, it wouldn't be open to the public by any means. Unless it went to the.
That's correct.
conservation.
That's correct. I tried to, just before I came here, I looked at all the open space subdivisions in the town. I'm familiar with a lot of them, but I'm not sure any of them have their open space accessible to the public. A lot of them have land that was conveyed to the land trust, which maybe by that nature, it's accessible through accessing, but I don't think people can just go into the land trust property and do what they want. Maybe in certain areas you can, but in this scenario and in several that I'm aware of, the association maintains it as open space, and the people who are part of the association have the ability to hike the land or use the land or enjoy it in some way that complies with the deed restriction to not build or do anything on there that's going to create ecological or environmental issues.
Following up a little bit on this, I have a few questions actually, but first, just you brought to mind, I think there's horse pasture, or there was down in that
There is.
lower corner. And
Yes.
so will they still use that?
No. There is a wire fence that we show on the property as part of surveying requirements. We do show encroachments, and this is an encroachment onto this property. There is a pasture that that will be addressed.
Meaning that they won't have access to it.
Well, future. Yeah, that's the intent.
Uh-huh. Another question, maybe don't sit down quite yet.
That's fine.
You're showing some of the tree buffer, and I think that, that's been a concern about how many trees would be lost to this development, and I understand there's sort of an open field area where the old barns, and there's like a cow milking barn down there. But up to the,
That's right.
like to the north, I mean, your north is angled in a weird way, but like the northeast, yeah, up
This
in
one.
there, that's pretty much all wooded right now, isn't it?
That's correct.
And so you're showing some, I think you're delineating some of the edge of the canopy, tree canopy there with those kind of scalloped lines around the three units, unit 3
Oh,
and
yes,
4.
yeah. Mhm. Yep. Those are the, what we anticipate are the clearing limits, if you will.
Okay,
And we are obligated to go back to the Wetlands Commission. Actually, it's a subdivision. We have to prepare individual site plans for each lot.
Right.
Once we know the exact features of the house, et cetera. So we'll be able to fine tune that, but right now, I just have it wrapping around the sanitary system and running across, picking up the well.
yeah, because with those septic systems moved to the sort of backside of those units, you're taking a bite out of the tree canopy there.
Yes, yep,
Unfortunately.
yeah.
And then are there
And it's-
trees down on the lower, sort of the eastern?
there are trees in this area. I do not show the existing tree line. This is predominantly field. This is open.
But you won't be clearing that.
No. None of the area inside. This is mostly field in here. There are some trees in here that will be taken down. But this is mostly field, and we are simply with the deep area here. This is a deep water section. This area of the wetland basin will replicate this very nice wetland area here that is essentially hay growth and grass. It's part of the field. It was maintained as part of the field. I'm sure it was hay when you could drive a tractor through there. Yeah, it's a nice feature, and we hope to replicate that with this.
And then speaking of the wetlands, you're putting a driveway right across. So is there a culvert? I probably should have read more into
That's
the
all right. No problem.
inland wetlands.
It is a three-sided concrete box culvert. So it has an open bottom. It is just checking to make sure I give you the right width. It is 10 feet wide on the bottom and 4 feet high.
I don't know if this is the right time to ask this question too, but the stone walls, the historic stone walls there, I'm kind of concerned about that because the house is gone, the barns are gone. So really all we have left of the history of the property are those stone walls. And
Yeah.
you're going to be going,
We have roughly 2,700 feet of stone walls on the property. And we are preserving as much as possible. The only area where I'm taking out a section is in the area of the house on lot 3. But you can see where I've made this property line, for example, is coincident with the stone wall. This property line is coincident with the stone wall. Out of the 2,700 feet of stone wall, and I do count the stone wall, it's on the northern side. We are disturbing approximately 350 feet of the stone walls.
and that includes for the driveway through the
It
wetlands?
includes, yeah, it includes for the driveway, the wetland crossing, the private roadway. We have a stone wall on the entrance. I included that also in the counting.
A little more than 10%.
And one feature that is I think is a big plus, and stop me, Chris, if I'm straying too much, but a big plus is this stone wall along the southern side of the field. This is, or was, a roadway. It's an abandoned roadway. The property line pursuant to state statutes is when the road gets abandoned, the property line goes down the center of the roadway. There were two stone walls that I think form the boundary of a nice, probably not much more than a single lane roadway that went through there. And the road's gone, but this stone wall will be preserved as part of the open space, which I think is a pretty good feature of the layout, and it worked nicely because it lines up with the 25-foot buffer that's required for the open space to go through to public roadway.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Mike Bugda, how are you addressing the needs for emergency vehicles for egress and egress?
Yes.
Could you repeat that question? I couldn't hear it,
I can
sorry.
repeat it if you want.
Yeah.
Emergency access and egress and emergency vehicles. We do have a hammerhead cul-de-sac, and I will, I set it up where the length of the cul-de-sac and their inside radii, emergency vehicles, 18-foot wide roadway. Emergency vehicles can come in and they can make this turn. If need be, going to the houses, we have a 12-foot wide driveway, and it can gain access into the driveway. It could do a turn, or a lot of times, they come in and then they end up backing out of a driveway, but they have room to make this turn in here. I've set it up for a 40-foot long single unit emergency vehicle.
No issue with the weight of the gross vehicle with that vehicle going over the culvert.
Oh, no, it's an H20 loaded design. It's precast concrete. I think that the section itself, it's in our attached plans, but I think it's about a 10-inch thick, maybe reinforced concrete slab. But yes, it's definitely can support H20 loading.
So,
Janet, I'm sorry.
Oh, Janet, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Janet hit her hand. You need to unmute.
Yes, I do. Sorry, I can lower my hand. I may be confusing this with somebody, Attorney McKeon, who came before us before. But wasn't this supposed to be a private thing? Like the person who already has a house there was making these lots for members of his family? And now this is going to be made available to the public, so the general public will be able to purchase these lots? Is that what I'm understanding?
No,
This
I think
subdivision?
you're thinking of the subdivision on Durham Road that Jim Portley came
Yeah.
before us, where he created.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay. So this is, I'm confusing that. All right. I'm sorry. So these will be made available for sale to the general public? The
Yes.
lots, the 4 lots. Okay, thank you.
So if I understand, and I noticed it here, but one of my question was, if we didn't do anything, because it's in our U1 district, by rights, the applicant could put 3 house lots with, basically without us having to do any sort of a special district?
Yeah, yeah, we have a layout of that, and we can show a 3-lot subdivision. And I think a lot of this Julia from SLR is going to cover in her compliance memo, but when you look at the 3-lot subdivision as opposed to what we're proposing, which is 4, the benefit to the surrounding neighborhood is exponential. I mean, the 25-foot buffer is just part of it. You have 61% of this 8-acre parcel that's being kept in its natural state from use of the folks. We're allowing for a little bit smaller lots and a little bit more condensing of the lots, along with a man-made wetland. So you're clearly, the intent of the regulation is to create a community and have open space in the community. And so the environmental benefits, ecological benefits are far more than you get in a 3-lot subdivision. Or even if one person bought this 8 acres and wanted to put a big house on it, there is nothing that prohibits them from cutting as many trees as they want down. Subject, of course, to wetland boundaries, but cutting trees down, taking stone walls away, changing topography of the lots, all of that goes out the window. And so that really is what has to be factored in when you think about, it's not the applicant saying, well, I'm squeeze another lot here. The 4-lot subdivision is actually much better ecologically, environmentally, wetlands protection wise than the 3-lot subdivision. The wetlands crossing is already approved. So they could put that wetlands crossing in for one house right now. So the analysis, I think, for the commission is, do we check off all of the requirements of section 27? And I submit that we do. And the end result is it complies with section 27. And the commission, whenever this regulation was adopted, made the decision that if you meet these requirements of section 27, this is something we want. And that's exactly what our application is. We're laying it out. We're saying that it checks all of the boxes. Julia will cover that the compliance with all the different aspects of section 27. And therefore, our commission has adopted this regulation because we want this type of subdivision. That's exactly the essence of our application.
Should we go ahead then and have Julie do her?
Yeah, unless you have more questions, that would be what I would suggest.
Okay. Hi, thanks everyone. I'm gonna share my screen. So let me know how that goes. There you go. Are you seeing my my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you for your time tonight. My name is Julia Fiore. I am a senior planner with SLR Consulting, which is located at 99 Realty Drive in Cheshire, Connecticut. And I am an AICP certified planner, and I will be going over, as Mr. McKeon presented, the consistency of the project with section 27, as well as with the your plan of conservation and development goals. So just an overview again of the proposal. This is for the open space conservation district, zone boundary change from the RU1 district. The proposed project would have 4 lots, could serve 5.39 acres or 61% of the site, and would also preserve the majority of the historic stone walls on site. So the required analyses and what's required for you all as the commission to consider is the consistency with the Town of Madison Plan of Conservation and Development, and with compliance with section 27.1.1 of the zoning regulations. So prior approvals, the driveway and the crossing has received inland wetlands and watercourse approval. That was approved in June. And there were some additional requirements of that approval, which would be complied with, and part of this plan, which includes open space delineation, so markers at 30-foot intervals to delineate the open space to prevent accidental or incidental intrusion. The creation of an open space maintenance plan that would be approved and reviewed. And again, there will need to be additional permits for site disturbance on lots 2, 3, and 4. So to start, this is the zoning compliance analysis that we conducted for the 6 purposes of the Open Space Conservation District, Section 27. So the 6 purposes are listed on the left, and then the compliance that we found is located on the right. So the first purpose is A, to preserve significant land area for open space, recreational, and agricultural purposes in perpetuity. So the project does comply with that by preserving 61% of the site, or 5.39 acres, which includes woodlands, wetlands, and open field habitat, which would be permanently conserved, as well as owned and maintained by a homeowners association. Purpose B, encourage more efficient development of land. This as a cluster development, this is more efficient development of land with smaller lots to minimize land disturbance, tree removal, and impervious cover, and allow for things like shared infrastructure of the access road, driveways, and the crossing. Purpose C is to afford greater flexibility of design and placement of buildings. Again, the flexibility of the smaller lots and the clustering allows for that, like I just stated, the single driveway access and enables habitat protection and additional preservation of the stone walls. Purpose D is to preserve and protect exceptional terrain, natural beauty, or sites of historic interest from insensitive placement of homes, roadways, utilities, and appurtenances. So the site does not have any sort of noted natural features or critical habitat, but which was noted in the POCD. But it does have, as we stated, wooded areas, wetlands, open fields, and in terms of historic or cultural, beauty, it was already brought up. Those stone walls are an important feature of the site and of the area, and those 2,300 linear feet of that will be preserved. Preservation, purpose E, preservation of streams, rivers, and ponds as natural resources. To prevent flooding, erosion, water pollution, and protect the quality and quantity of drinking water supplies. So the preservation of the open space includes both natural and vegetated stormwater renovation buffers. Groundwater allows for groundwater recharge and discharge, as well as wetland capture of sediments and nutrients to protect groundwater, groundwater infiltration, and as well as part of that inland wetlands approval, that stormwater wetland that was created would sort of mitigate any runoff from the impervious surfaces created by the project. And finally, purpose F, preserve wetlands, aquifers, topographical or soil features, marine and wildlife habitat, or other features having conservation values, including views, vistas, and indigenous vegetation. Again, the project would protect the wetlands on site, and the open space would be permanently protected and managed through the open space management plan to ensure the preservation of the wetlands on site, sort of above and beyond what would be required if that open space, the surrounding open space, was not preserved. Okay, and then this is just an overview of the dimensional standards for zoning. Bob already went over a lot of this, but we did review his plans and to ensure that they did align with the zoning regulations, and they do comply in terms of parcel size, density, coverage, setbacks, height, parking spaces, and open space preservation, exceeding the requirements in many areas. Okay. So we know you recently adopted your new plan of conservation and development. So we also analyzed the project for consistency with the POCD. The zoning regulations specifically asked for consistency with the goals of the POCD. So I'll go through the 3 core goals of the POCD next, but just to start, we also wanted to show that the project also complies with the vision statement. So the vision statement's on the left. You envision a Madison that provides economic, educational, housing, cultural, recreational, and civic opportunities, establishing high and sustainable quality of life, community growth that welcomes new residents, safeguarding the integrity of natural and cultural resources through sustainable conservation. So the project does meet these goals of providing housing in a way that is consistent with your growth goals and aligns with all your other goals of safeguarding the integrity of the natural and cultural resources. And it uses several conservation methods that we've already discussed in order to really maximize the benefits of this open space preservation. And as we had mentioned earlier, our natural resources scientists and wetlands experts did review these plans to ensure that the integrity of the open space and the benefits of these features, such as the stormwater wetland, the buffers, and ensured that important habitats and ecological functions remained on site. Okay, so this is the main analysis that is required. So the consistency with community goals. So these are the 3 community goals stated in your POCD. So exhibiting high vitality, connecting people to each other, to our history, and to the natural resources around us. So the project ticks those boxes in many ways. It's designed to preserve environmental vitality, as well as in terms of this type of cluster development, connection to your neighbors, the ability to enjoy open space together, and the preserving and enhancing the habitats on site, and the history in terms of the stone walls on site, those as well will be preserved. So goal 2 is sustaining a high quality of life and to be resilient in the face of current and future challenges. So the project was designed to allow residents access to quality open space, to minimize land disturbances, and mitigate, and in terms of resiliency, it's designed to mitigate runoff and to preserve the integrity of the wetlands, which we know are very important for resiliency. And then goal 3 is growing responsibly and offering all residents the opportunity to participate in growth. So this project is a great example of how to balance development and conservation. So creating, 4 new housing units while maintaining environmental integrity and preserving open space in a way that's consistent with your community. So in conclusion, our analysis found that the project is consistent with the POCD's community vision and 3 core goals, and also conforms with the requirements of Section 27 of the zoning regulations, and consistent with the purposes of the proposed open space conservation district. So thank you very much, and let me know if you have any questions.
Julia, do you want to have any questions for? Thanks. If there are no other questions from commissioners, I think we have a couple of hands raised from attendees. And I don't know if anyone here wants to ask any questions first before we go to maybe go. There's a telephone number and
Yes, we don't have a name, but a telephone number.
Hi, my name is Sujata Prasad. Can you hear me?
yes, we can, thanks.
Yes, could you
Yes.
please provide your address for the record?
Yes, I'm 50 Strawberry Hill Road, Madison, Connecticut. I'm adjacent to one of the the places you're going to be working on. I am really concerned because the lot is very wooded, and I noticed that you were mentioning there's a lot of the area is going to be affected. And I get a lot of deer and I get beavers, there are salamanders. I mean, these are all things which are going to be disrupted by that whole area. I don't know how, because I'm looking at the area which is proposed is very close to my lot in my wooded area.
Okay, thank you. for those comments. We also have
Alex Province.
Alex Province and now it looks like William Vilchek as well.
Alex, you can unmute and identify yourself for the record. I give you permission.
I don't see him on anymore. Oh, no, I do. Alex, it looks like you're muted.
We could give him a chance. We could go to Bill
Okay,
and we can circle back to you, Alex, and see if we can figure out. Okay. Attorney Vilchek?
Yes, can you hear me?
yes, we can.
Okay, the Attorney William Bilczek, 12 Brookside Road, Madison, Connecticut. I represent Richard Brosnick and Jill DeMonico at 468 Horsepond Road, and Joshua Billsborough and Thutron of 482 Horsepond Road. They are adjacent to the west of the development, the proposed development. My question is, how much of uplands is part of the open space that's going to be set aside as an easement?
I can,
Is that your only question, Attorney Vilchek, or?
Oh,
do you-
I have a couple more, but I just wanted to get an answer to that question.
Well, I think,
I'll have to compute that.
yep, the applicant will have an opportunity to address your questions.
Okay, and the other a follow-up question to that was, how much of the uplands is outside of the wetland regulated area? Did you hear that?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. It's I have to apologize. Your transmission, I don't know how any of the outside public, but is breaking up here or there. It's very difficult to follow the conversations of the commission members and the applicant.
Sorry, it all sounds, it's coming through loud and clear here in the room. And, I don't,
My third question is, did you offer any of the open space land that's going to be in the currently private easement to the Madison Land Trust?
Was it just the three questions, Attorney Vilchek?
Then I have a final question for Ms. Fiore regarding the regulation 27.1.1. The fourth part of the regulation is preserve, protect exceptional terrain, natural beauty, sites of historic, and so forth and so on. She claimed that there's no critical habitat. Could she expound on that?
I can expound on that.
Go ahead.
There's an NDDB report attached to our application which says that. So I would also add that all of those questions, to me, seem to be more appropriate at the Inland Wetlands Agency. And in fact, I believe Mr. Belcheck was at that hearing and raised those questions. And the Wetlands Agency approved the application for not only the regulated activity permit, but also favorably recommended the subdivision over that objection back in June, and no appeal has been taken. So I'm not sure anything we do here tonight, regardless of what your opinion is on the application, can undo what the Wetlands Agency has already approved. In terms of the offer to the land trust, I don't believe that the land trust has been offered. My understanding is the land trust typically is interested in property that adjoins property they already have.
Contiguous, yeah.
So I don't think that's the case here. I suppose we'd be happy to hear from the land trust if they were interested. That's not how we proposed the preservation of open space. As we indicated, we would do it through a homeowners association and deed restriction. And then, again, with the questions about uplands and open space, I don't know the calculations, but I do know and am very familiar with the prior application. I think it was the last one before the commission, the Barberry Hill Farm open space conservation subdivision. And my recollection there is that virtually the entire open space is either wetlands or in the regulated 100-foot review area. So the only other point I'd make there is nothing in section 27 which says that your open space can't be wetlands or upland review area near wetlands. I would argue that section 27 probably contemplates that wetlands are a good portion of the open space area, and having open space adjacent to wetlands is probably something that people want to encourage. And I think that section 27 does in fact encourage that preservation of open space near and around wetlands.
Madam Chairman, Attorney Belcheck, I'd like to correct Attorney McKeon comment that the Inland Wetlands Agency discussed the OSCD regulation. They did not. They don't have the purview to review section 27.1.1. What they did was they just handled the wetlands issue. So they did not discuss the 6 points of 27.1.1 in that particular application.
Understandable, thanks. I also just want to say for the record, we have a copy of a letter from Attorney Belcheck that it looks like it arrived this afternoon at 3:25. So I haven't had a chance to really read it. I don't know if anyone else saw it, but it's here in a hard copy. So we appreciate that. I just don't know if we'll be able to respond to it.
Just one point of clarity. I
Yeah,
thought we were talking about the habitat and the impact of the habitat. I thought that's why the meeting that Inland Wetlands came up was discussed in that context, not about the actually section 27 of the regulation. Is that a misunderstanding how we got why the wetland meeting was brought up? I thought it was in the context of the habitat and the something to do with the habitat.
This is what I was trying to get at when I was explaining the review by SLR, and it's a zoning exercise here because we're changing the zone, which allows the open space subdivision, open space district in which a subdivision can be implemented. But a large part of section 27 is based on environmental and conservation concerns. That is the motivation for section 27. And so the SLR review from our perspective was more than just reviewing from a planning perspective or a zoning perspective, whether we check all the boxes of of a particular application, which I would say we do based on their work, but also a review by the SLR professionals in ecology and soil scientists and in wetlands and water courses to evaluate the open space that we're preserving so that we weren't just coming before you and drawing a circle around some meaningless pieces of property so that we can get a lot or get a subdivision approved. The open space provisions here are 61% of the site, and they're meaningful pieces of open space from an ecological, from a soil scientist, and from an environmental review by SLR. I would add that the Wetlands Agency is referred a subdivision application. So the Wetlands Agency passed on this particular matter the regulated activity permit for the crossing. But also with any subdivision application, there is a referral to the Wetlands Agency for review. And while I agree with Attorney Bilczek, they didn't go through the purposes of Section 27 to see if they've been met. That's the commission's, your commission's job. But their very first finding and recommendation is that the applicant has demonstrated the designation of 50% gross land area as open space pursuant to Section 27.1.1 of the regulations. That was part and parcel of their favorable recommendation of the subdivision to your commission. I don't know if this is the appropriate time or not, but I did in fact get the email from Mr. Bilczek to Ms. Mannix at about 4 o'clock today. And I did have some points to raise. I don't know if now's the time to do that or not.
Would you like to just see quickly if
Alex
Alex
can-
Province
Yeah.
has access, and then you
Sure, and
can
then maybe we
do
can circle back to that.
rebuttals? Alex?
Hi there. How about now?
Time. Okay.
Am I coming in clearly?
Yep, we can hear you.
Thank you for your patience. Alex Province, 917 Boston Post Road. I'm slightly confused, and this may very well be a moot point, but the word cluster housing had come up with a previous presenter, and I'm not sure if this application falls under a cluster housing, but if so, Madam Chair had brought up historic barns, and one of the requirements, if it happens to be cluster housing, is that historic structural houses or historic structures be preserved. So again, maybe a moot point, but I know it's there because I suggested it be placed in the regs when at the town meeting, at the planning and zoning meeting when cluster housing was being approved. So it's there. Thank you for your patience again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to address that. I'm all too familiar with cluster housing and the cluster housing special exception. This is not an application for cluster housing under the special exception allowing for it. I think the term clustering was used more as a verb in the colloquial sense that as opposed to a standard subdivision with 80,000 square foot lots in the RU1, this open space designation allows a clustering or a more condensed placement of homes. So that was why clustering, and maybe that was the wrong term to use, but that was the context that clustering was used.
That was your intent.
Good to clarify.
Okay.
Don't have any other hands raised from the public.
Any other questions from commissioners? Any other,
Attorney Bilczek has his hand raised again, Madam
Okay.
Chair. Attorney Bilczek?
Yeah, once again, Attorney Bilczek. Are we going to get a copy of our available, the SLR report? I understand Ms. Fiore did verbally explain the report, but my understanding is from Attorney McKeon that it was submitted just before the meeting.
It is online
Okay,
as part of the document records and has been since earlier this afternoon.
because I was on, I checked at 3 o'clock, it had yet to be uploaded.
I think it was there this morning, at least.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, you're right. It did come in this afternoon.
It's under SLR technical memorandum. It is
Yeah.
online.
Okay, as long as we're able to, and once again, the public hearing will not be closed until the public has the opportunity to read that report.
Closing of the public hearing is at the discretion of the commission.
Okay, thanks.
And today is without an extension from the applicant. The commission would need to close the public hearing. It's been 5 days.
And I would note that one of the reasons we have SLR here tonight testifying not in person, but virtually to answer questions. I guess I understand and appreciate that the report wasn't filed until today. However, the burden is on the applicant to prove that we're entitled to the relief we're seeking. I would note that we have been on the agenda, I think now 3 times. And we postponed so that we could develop our information and present it to you in a way that made sense and hopefully answered many of your questions. But by the same token, I was advised of potential opposition points at 3:25 today, despite having been on an agenda now 3 times. So that's sort of the nature of how these proceedings work. I'm sympathetic to it, but I deal with it all the time. I'm prepared to address what was sent in at 3:25 today. And I think that I'll do that right now since I'm speaking. The open space, there were a number of points made in the email. Many of them are just incorrect, such as showing the layout with 1 acre lots. I'm not sure what that even means. The minimum lot size in the RU1 is 80,000 square feet. The open space requirements are laid out in section 27 in great detail. And nowhere does it say that you need to have public access to the open space. I don't know where that concept comes from. Much of the nature of the letter is, to me, an opposition to what already happened, namely the wetland crossing, which was approved. I know, having reviewed the record and the minutes of the prior wetlands approval, that Mr. Bilczek was at that wetlands hearing and did present opposition. There's also an assertion in there that only 2 lots can be obtained on the 8-acre parcel. I don't know where that information comes from, but as Mr. Dome's map shows, 3 lots can be laid out in a way that, in my opinion, is much more offensive in terms of what a lot owner could do after the fact than what would occur if the 4 lots in an open space subdivision are approved. The SLR analysis, to me, proves that any other proposal, whether it's for 1 lot, 2 lots, or 3 lots, under more conventional subdivision or development, that is somehow more helpful and preservation of environmental factors or kinder to the environment is just hogwash. It's just not true. This subdivision application in section 27, if you meet all the requirements, which I believe we do, is more environmentally friendly to the site. Nothing, as I indicated earlier, nothing would stop the owner right now from going and clearing trees or getting rid of walls. They're coming to you and saying, we got a better idea, and this is it. The allegations about ecosystem, and I guess this ties into Ms. Prasad, I think her name was, and she has a written objection on file about habitat and wildlife. And again, I would point to the NDDB report, which is part of our application, but would also remind the commission that as part of the wetlands application, Davison Environmental did a review of the ecological and environmental impacts. We also took the additional step of having SLRs, environmental personnel and professionals, review those very issues. So I think we've done our homework and we've presented to the record that this is ecologically and environmentally a better option. I think that's all I had. I don't know if there are more people from the public who have points to make. Again, we were aware of I think there were 2 opposition letters from individuals who also oppose the wetlands effort. And the Wetlands Agency, after lots of information and again, an independent review from Davison, came up with what I think is a very thoughtful and detailed approval that addresses all of the concerns in which the applicant is clearly prepared to comply with.
Thank you. Any other commissioners?
No.
Would anyone like to make a motion to close the public hearing and move to deliberation?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and move to deliberation.
John Morgan, second. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, so move to deliberations. Comments, questions, thoughts?
It seems like the question for us is whether to approve the 4 houses with the guidelines, safeguards for the environment, right? Versus not, which means between 1 and probably 3 houses, which wouldn't have the same safeguards
Protection.
and protections. So seems like it's pretty clear. I agree. I'm reading the opposition from Attorney Vilchek, and I don't understand some of the things he's saying. In the event, the applicant is backed up very clearly, cogently, the application, especially regarding the section 27.
Agree.
What John said.
Said anyone else?
You brought that together nicely, John. Yes.
John, you did so well. Would you like to make a motion
Sure.
that we approve? And we do have a draft.
Let's see what we can choose.
We just don't want.
It would be the open space.
Yes.
Yeah, what is to the next? Assuming that we approve the change, the first change.
Sure.
So this is the open space conservation district petition.
Petitions first.
Right, section 27.11.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, sure. I'll make a motion. Would you like me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Voted that the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission approve application number 24-28, 454 Horsepond Road, map 84, lot 28, zone RE1, owner 454 Horsepond LLC, applicant Mack Building LLC, petition for zone boundary change pursuant to section 27, change the designation of land from RE1 district to open space conservation district for a 4-lot subdivision as detailed and more further described in the application documents based upon the following findings. 1, the applicant has successfully demonstrated that the proposal is consistent with section 27.1.1 of the zoning regulations as the location and layout of the proposed OSCD are in conformance with the intent of and goals and objectives contained in the plan of conservation and development. The proposed OSCD preserves a significant land area, 5.39 acres as open space, and encourages more efficient development of land. The The applicant has obtained favorable subdivision report and a regulated activity permit from the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency. Furthermore, the location and scale of this development helps preserve and protect in perpetuity the surrounding natural resources, including inland wetlands, watercourses, more than 2,300 linear feet of historic stone walls. 2, the petition demonstrates consistency with section 27.2 of the zoning regulations as the subject parcel meets the standards required for OSCD designation, such as minimum district size, uses, density, architectural standards, yard requirements, and open space. 3, the approval of the zoning map change development plan may now allow the applicant to proceed with the subdivision application process. The effective date of this approval shall be November 1st, 2024.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor to approve? Janet, that's you too. Good, thank you. Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So moving on to our pending applications, we have 24-29, 454 Horsepond Road, map 84, lot 28, zone RU1, owner 454 Horsepond Road LLC. Applicant Mack Building LLC. This is a subdivision application for 4 lots pursuant to section 27, the Open Space Conservation District. And again, this was tabled from October 3rd, but now that we've approved the district change, the petition, we can move on to the 4 lot subdivision. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Try to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Yeah, were there any, just to
No,
clarify with the applicant that there was no
I
further.
guess I should identify, I have Chris McKeon for the applicant.
Thank you.
I think we all
Sorry to rush this.
treated the zone change as part and parcel of the subdivision approval. It is a unique situation where you have a zone change that is based upon the ability to do a subdivision. So it's almost as if you've got to show you can do the subdivision in order to get the zone change in the first place. But I don't think Bob or I have anything to add in terms of the subdivision that we didn't cover in the prior application.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing changed in the last 2 minutes.
Not the last 2 minutes. Okay, I think that we're all feeling comfortable that we can go ahead with an approval.
Okay.
Motion. Do you want to use the microphone?
Yes.
Please.
The following draft resolution is offered, voted that the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission approve application number 24-28, 454 Horsepond Road, map 84, lot 28, zone R1, owner 454 Horsepond LLC, applicant Mack Building LLC, petition for zoning boundary change pursuant to section 27 to change the designation of land X1 district to open space conservation district with 4-lot subdivision as shown on record subdivision map. Open space conservation subdivision prepared for 454 Horsepond LLC, 454 Horsepond Road, Madison, Connecticut, prepared by Dolan Engineering, dated November 27, 2023, revised to June 10th, 2024, with the following conditions. 1, the open space area shall be protected in perpetuity with a conservation easement as prescribed in section 27 of Madison zoning regulations. This conservation easement and maintenance plan shall be filed in the land records at the time of filing the record subdivision map. The effective date of this approval shall be November 15th, 2024, and upon filing of the record subdivision map.
Thank you.
You get a second, and there was a typo. On the 15th, it should say the first. I apologize.
November 1st.
Yes, sorry.
November 3rd.
First,
November 1st.
November 1st.
sorry, Mike.
November 1st.
Correction, November 1st, 2024.
Okay, great. Noted. Could I have a second?
Second.
Jeff, got it? And any further discussion? All in favor to approve the 4-lot subdivision? Unanimous. How about Janet?
Yes,
There we go. Okay, great. Thank you, Janet.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And you're right, they should go hand in hand almost all at once.
Section 27
We see
says
what
to
you're
submit
doing.
them at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Good night.
Next on the agenda is 24-32 Longshore Lane, map 25, lot 74-1, zone R2. Owner LFL LLC, applicant Lili Foggle, postal site plan to construct 6-foot wide stone and wood chip access trail to the interior of the parcel. And this was tabled from October 3rd. Do we have?
Your applicants are attending remotely.
Okay.
Both John Paul Garcia is here, and Attorney Tom Crosby on behalf of the applicant Lili Foggle.
Whenever you're ready to present.
For the record, my name is John Paul Garcia. I'm a licensed engineer and land surveyor. Licensed to practice state of Connecticut, Principal Officer, 190 Fairwood Road, the town of Bethany. I'm here representing the Foggles in the matter of the construction of a path on their property at Longshore Lane. This has been the subject. Can I share my screen and I put the site plan up, or do you want to put it up, Erin?
You can do it. That's fine.
Okay, share screen. Where do I show? Share screen. Okay. Can you see the site plan?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Let's try it again. How's that? Can you see the site plan?
Not yet. Maybe Aaron.
Oh,
There we go.
something's happening.
Yeah, we see.
Got it.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. If I need somebody to really help me with this stuff, I should get my granddaughter. Anyways, they own 22.5 acres approximately on Longshore Lane. They want to be able to maintain the backside of their property, which is over here at the rear of 78 Longshore Lane. So to that end, they want to construct a 5 to 6 foot wide path on the south side of their property, and it would be constructed of wood chips. We've already been to the Wetlands Commission, and we have a favorable approval. We've already been to DEEP, and we have a favorable approval. Both of those should be in your file. There's nothing of any great shakes about this. This is just a maintenance path. This is not a trail that would support a truck or anything like that. It will support a mower or an ATV, like a small, side-by-side or something, so you can get equipment in and out of the property. And that's basically what's in front of you. It's a fairly simple, straightforward site plan.
Thank you. I do have a question. Would it be possible to somehow, even Google map the area?
I just pulled it up. That's what I was.
Well, here's the, I think I have, wait a minute, I think I have,
Get a sense of where this is.
hold the phone.
There's like 20 acres that I couldn't find, and there's no address
I
listed.
couldn't either. I looked at this also.
So if you can, Erin, if you can pull it up, or
Yeah, I have the aerial available, John Paul, if you don't.
This is Maplewood, this is Longshore Lane. It's right next to the town property. The ball field's right here. The surf club is over here. Does that help?
this helps a lot, because we couldn't see where this path was going.
I apologize.
I mean, you all know because you're so familiar, but
All right, and this path is entirely on private property, is
The
that
path
correct?
is right here. I don't know. Are you still, can you see this piece here? This
Yes.
is right here. Approximately. It's as tight as to the property lines we can get it, because that's the least impactful location. And like I said, we went over this with the Wetlands Commission. This site plan was for a 6-lot subdivision that was proposed for this. We're not doing that. I'm just using this as a location map.
so most of this area is wetlands, both tidal and freshwater, is that
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So what do you need for maintenance? Why do you need this maintenance path?
Well, you got down trees, you wanna mow the brush on the property. It's the only way we can get access. There is a trail that comes in off of here, but you can't get mowers up and down it. There's a couple of bridges, you have to go up and down steps, you have to you have to lift a mower over the seawall. So there's no access this way, and there's no access to get into the property this way from Maplewood or Mapleville, because it's a substantial wetlands crossing.
So maybe we could get a Google Earth image to see, are there like grass fields that need to be?
Yeah, there's a large field in back here. And like I said, there's a path with a couple of bridges on it over here. So you want to be able to
go across the wetlands.
What's that?
You don't want to be driving across, I mean, even with.
That's correct. We don't want to be driving, but more importantly, there's really no other practical access to get a 4 or 5 foot mower in there. And if you gotta go in there to clean up some down trees, there's no way to get back there.
Well, what's that path? What's the path that shows on the map there to that building? I can
It
imagine.
is here.
It's
I don't
another
think that's
property.
this isn't an accurate map. There's no building at the rear.
There's no building here. This was just to show you the location. This was the subject of a fairly substantial application for a $6 subdivision, which we never intend doing. We have no intention of doing that. This was just to show you the property.
That was before our time.
Yeah, John Paul, if you stop sharing for a minute, I'll just pull up the aerial to show the
Okay.
commission.
That'd be
Current
helpful, Erin.
great.
How's that?
is here, so you can see. So if you're looking, this is the surf club, this is Exchange Field,
Yeah.
Longshore Lane comes down. This is the Foggle's property
Which is?
where she
I see, so you
lives
can't get
here.
from the Fogel
This-
property up.
This property is the subject parcel in the application.
Mhm.
It is vacant land, as you can see in here, there's tidal and inland wetlands.
Right.
This area, as you zoom in, is the path along the property line. This yellow line is not 100% accurate of where the, necessarily where the property line is, but the 5 foot, or excuse me, the 6
Oh, you
foot
can see it.
wood chip, there's no path currently.
Yeah.
This
but there's
is
a-
where they're looking to put this to access this upland.
There's a barn
area.
that you can use as as sort of a landmark, I think, Erin.
Yes, that's
To
right.
run
You
on
can see it. You
the
can see it.
north side
Yeah,
there,
Yeah, that's it.
but that's the subject area.
And the Fogel property is the green dot,
This one down here.
and that's,
This is the
That's-
adjacent property owner, Mr. Caraba, who has put a letter into,
it's on file.
but there's no way to access it from the green
From
dot
this
property because of
property?
the small streams there?
so that's what John Paul was just
That's tidal wetland.
discussing as far as the access ways from here,
Yeah, it's all water.
John Paul.
Okay.
Yes. If you can see from this thing that there's a pathway that comes up, cuts diagonally across and goes across. Those are 2 bridges that have steps in them and everything else. And there's a substantial steel seawall down at the south side. So in order to get any kind of maintenance equipment, like a small ATV or a small mower in there, you'd have to lift it over a seawall. You'd have to lift it up the steps of the bridge. It's not practical. It's absolutely not practical. And they cannot maintain that copse of trees and everything. They had nice little picnic grove back there if they want to do that. But it's almost impractical to maintain it any other way.
Okay.
And again, DEP is signed off, inland wetlands is signed off. There's no substantial impact. Our experts signed off, the town's experts signed off. When we did the wetlands application, we had a couple of environmentalists, soil scientists look at it. There again, everybody said there's no impact.
Can you, John Paul, just as this is a coastal site plan application, can you go through the coastal resources and the comments from DEP? I don't think you did that just yet.
Okay, let me just get their letter, or do you have it available?
He knows where this is, to at least speak to the details of the plan.
Well, there's a beach at the south side of the property, which we're not going anywhere near. There are tidal wetlands, which we're not proposing to do any work in. There are Phragmites, there are other resources, but there's nothing. I'm sorry. Oh, somebody. There's no intent to do any work other than in the only refined upland area adjacent to Longshore Lane. There's no intent to have any impact on any of the other coastal resources. There's no intent to construct any other structures. The structures have already been constructed by the previous owner. So again, there's no impact to anything. And all we're talking about is a 5 foot, 6 foot wide wood chip path. DEEP asked if we can reduce it, and we can reduce it to 5 feet if we had to, because you're only talking about putting in a 48-inch or a 60-inch mower. You're not talking about bringing in a large machine. So we can reduce this to 5 feet if we absolutely had to, which is what DEEP asked, and we're amiable to that. And it's only wood chips. This is not a path that's accessible 24/7, 365. It's only for periodic maintenance, and it's designed to blend in harmoniously with the surrounding area. And if it gets flooded every once in a while and it's exceptionally high tide, no damage, no harm, no foul. It's just an access path.
Right. So why do you even need the wood chips? Why couldn't you just, if it's?
You need some kind of a surface to at least establish. Then once the grass starts to come up, once the other stuff, you could mow that and you can maintain it that way. It doesn't have to be perpetually wood chips, but you need something to get the process started. If you just leave it as bare dirt and grass, you now start to run the risk of erosion occurring. So you want to have something to stabilize it.
Try to understand the logic there, but.
Any other questions? I don't have a problem with 6 feet wide versus 5 feet. Yeah, I can live with that.
What is the wood chip?
Yeah.
Surface, what is triggering the request for approval?
Right.
What's that? I'm sorry.
What is triggering the need for a coastal site plan? I can answer that, or you can answer that, John Paul.
No, go ahead, Aaron. You'll be more than happy to answer it.
So section 25 of the zoning regulations is your coastal zone. And essentially, the deposition of material or clearing things, your regulations allow for a lot of exemptions, but basically no exemptions within 25 feet of a coastal resource. And because of the proximity to the tidal wetlands, that's what triggers the need for a local coastal. In this particular case, there are inland wetlands adjacent as well. And there are direct impacts to the inland wetlands, which is why this went through a significant activity process with the Inland Wetlands Agency, and a public hearing was held. And I don't know if, so your lens in looking at this is through your coastal regulations and impacts on coastal resources. There is not a requirement to hold a public hearing in our regulations on a coastal site plan. As I mentioned, Mr. Carrabba has sent you a letter requesting that a public hearing be held. Mr. Carrabba is here in the room as well. That is at the opportunity for a public to be heard is at the discretion of the chair when there is not a public hearing, but ultimately the decision as to whether or not to hold a public hearing comes from the commission. So this is your opportunity if you choose to address that at this time. I think that answers your, and then my last comment is that I did provide a staff report for you, basically highlighting what the coastal resources were that are referenced in the application, as well as Deep's letter and your purview to review this.
I have one question. Someone else asked before, but I don't think it clear. This is, the proposed path is entirely on the applicant's property.
Yes, yes.
The subject
It doesn't
property.
reach over into it doesn't, but, does it abut the neighbor's property?
It's very close.
Yeah, very close.
But it's not on the property line itself, it's.
No.
Right, Mr. Garcia can pull that plan up.
Let me share the screen again. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah, can you zoom in?
Yeah, so a little bit.
You want to zoom in?
Yes, please.
You don't have to.
Yeah, they're at a little bit of a distance here from the screen, so
How's
that's
that?
great. You could just run where the property line is.
Here's the property line. Can you see this? Here's the
Yeah.
property line here,
Yeah,
Okay.
and here's the path right here. So we're about a foot off the property line, and then the path, as it gets out of the wetland areas, it starts to weave away and go up higher away from the property line. And then here, it's just hugging the property line only because it's easier, just a matter of mowing some phragmites.
okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Does anyone, I don't think we need to have a public hearing for this.
But can you just?
Yeah, but would you like to speak?
Am I allowed to speak?
We're asking if you.
Oh, sure, yes, absolutely. So first and foremost, I really appreciate everyone's time here this evening. Here, I live at 78 Longshore Lane, the property, excuse me, sir. This is our home. This is our home. This is our shed here. And as you saw in the letter that I wrote to you guys, this will impact my family very much. We purchased this property for the tranquility, the privacy, and the beautiful surroundings. This installation of this path will destroy the way in which my family lives because I have 3 young children. We love our property. We are already, I went to my barn yesterday, which again is adjacent to this property. And now I have to consider looking around the corner to see who may be trespassing down that path. Okay?
They're not trespassing down the path. if it's
There
on-
is no path. There never has been a
But
path.
it's on their land.
It's on their land,
So they
correct?
wouldn't be
ma'am.
trespassing.
It wouldn't be trespassing.
No, I'm saying if anybody coming down that illegally, not necessarily the Fogles.
Okay.
But again, we are adjacent to the surf club and we do have a lot of children on bicycles, et cetera. And this is really just inviting trespassing type behavior. We've had these issues on Longshore Lane before. And as you can see in some of the exhibits, I don't know, Aaron, if you can pull them up or I can share some of these with you here. This is flooding that occurs, all those phragmites, all of these wood chips will come onto my property quite often, as you can see.
We did
That's
see, these are on file. Yeah, thanks.
okay. And so in addition, yes, I recall the conversation quite well. I was in Washington, DC. Mr. John DeLora called me and said, Stephen, what's going on at the property? Apparently my landscaper went over the property line and removed concrete illegally dumped here as he was removing it from our home. The disturbed area that actually occurred in Exhibit A in the letter that I provided to you, Mr. DeLora said to Mrs. Foggle that these would repopulate and nothing ever needed to be done because there never was a path here. And there is access from Maplewood. I used to actually be not a member, but I was part of the surrounding land with Ed Zimmerman. I myself accessed this property via a mower from Maplewood Lane. I constructed myself the bridge that goes from Maplewood Lane all the way down to the beach through those other 3 paths. So I know for fact that there is access. There's no reason to get a 48-inch mower or an ATV back here. If the Fogles wanted to actually maintain this property, they could start by maintaining all the property adjacent to the street, to which they have never maintained since the day they purchased it. It is overgrown, it is blighted, etc. And so We have invested significantly. You can also see in the opposition that I provided to you folks, we have invested significantly in our home to take advantage of all of the beautiful surroundings to which we have, not to mention the fact that, again, you know, we purchased this knowing that there was a conservation easement on the property. Okay, this is in the land records. Mr. Crosby, who is the attorney for the Foggles, acknowledged such in a letter in 2018 saying that the settlement agreement and the conservation easement agreement, the conservation agreement was in full effect, to which this very board voted on in 2011 and approved, which became a judgment of the court. A state judge signed off on it. Now that the Foggles own it, they're saying that the conservation easement is not applicable. And so it causes me great concern that the applicant acknowledged in 2018 that the conservation easement was in full effect. They in fact sued Ed Zimmerman, who in fact they purchased the land from, for enforcement of that very settlement agreement. And now that they own the settlement agreement, they're saying we don't have to abide by that settlement agreement. The one that they filed on their own on the land records when they didn't even own it, they're now saying we don't have to, the conservation easement doesn't exist.
It's my understanding that a conservation easement stays with the land. Is that right?
Correct.
I think you should allow Mr. Carrabba to finish
Okay.
what he would like to say to the commission, determine whether or not you would like to hold a public hearing and allow the applicant to address the concerns that are raised.
Okay.
Sure. So the town attorney, again, this settlement agreement was signed in 2011, approved by this board. Mr. Crosby, again, acknowledged, and I have a copy of the letter that he wrote on his letterhead, acknowledging that there is in fact a conservation easement on the land in 2018. Subsequently, now their argument is there was an escrow agreement put in place in 2015, 2 years after the signing of the actual settlement agreement that was put on the land records. The conservation easement itself was not recorded on the land records. It was referenced in the actual settlement agreement as an appendix. Okay. And so we again purchased our home knowing that our home could be impacted negatively in this area here, because part of the settlement agreement included a hammerhead turn down there. So we purchased our home fully understanding and appreciating that it could be negatively affected over here in this southern corner. Never in a million years did we ever expect to have a full path destroying the environment to which we love and my family cherishes, me and my 3 young children and my lovely wife, every day. And now we're installing a pool, and now I have to worry about some peeping Tom watching my 2 daughters swimming with their girlfriends or something to that effect coming down this path.
Okay, I think we've heard enough.
Okay, certainly. I apologize. I'm just very emotional. This means a lot to me.
We hear you.
Thank you.
And I don't know how frequently this path would be used, but my understanding would be that if whether the conservation easement is still in place, regardless, it needs to be maintained. This land needs to be maintained. And I agree with you. I know that what you're talking about with the invasives and the overgrowth and everything. So I think that there's a reason to get some equipment in there and try to take care of the invasives.
I've offered an easement to the Foggles, and they have not responded. I've offered an easement.
Okay, what's before us tonight is this application, and I don't think we need to have a public hearing. And yes, we did let you have a voice, and we appreciate hearing from you. Does anyone have any other thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I have one. You know, it seems to me that this is right by the surf club, and if you put a path, it's an open invitation for folks to wander up the path. You need to have some kind of sign up saying trespassers will be shot. Otherwise, in an area like open space, I don't think it's absurd to think that lots of folks will decide to wander up.
It's happened historically.
No different than they can wander down 2 driveways over there as well, you know, so.
At the
that's-
beach.
at the beach, you know, people come over from the surf club, and people come from, there's kids playing at Exchange Field, you know, all year long, except for the winter months.
In fact, we just improved one of those fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of drainage in the area.
I'm curious as to what kind of access is there that would allow that to happen. I don't know if, I haven't seen any pictures or anything.
It's a private road. You'd have to wander over from Exchange Field or from the surf club.
So you're telling me there's no fence or anything there?
Not now.
No,
There's a
no,
fence on the edge of,
Long.
Exchange
Along Longshore there
Yeah,
is.
and
Yeah,
there's
No, there's none of the-
trees and brushes and stuff, but it's very thin.
Can you see the path?
There's no.
there's
path yet.
no
path.
path.
Approving
This is
it.
a,
I understand.
Yes, you would be.
what
Will
the
you be able
applicant
to?
is proposing.
If you stumble on it, yeah.
There would be
I
a
think-
6 foot wide clearing,
Right, I
basically,
understand that. But I just,
with pervious materials.
I understand
I would
that.
remind the commission that you're looking at this through the lens of a coastal application.
Right.
This is not a special use permit
Right,
for
Good point.
regulating.
and we've heard
a
from
path.
inland wetlands, and we've heard from deep,
Correct.
and some adjustments have been made.
I agree. I don't see any.
The applicant
I don't see
has
any
their
reason
hand
not to
raised as well,
have
Madam
a
Chair.
public hearing. It's on their property and it meets all the other requirements, so.
Mr. Garcia, did you want to?
If there's a real concern and that trespassing becomes a problem, I'm sure my client will gate it off. We can put an attractive gate up there. But until such that happens, I don't think we need anything yet. If it comes to pass, then by all means, we'll be more than happy to put a gate up. It'd have to be some kind of an attractive gate because you really don't want, put like a metal stock gate up or something. But that's a simple solution to a possible trespass issue.
John,
Do we have the ability to put that in as a condition now to?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not, it's a private road, but it's a well-used private road.
Very well.
Yeah, and there is some question about, the
Is it really
land.
private? I don't really, yeah.
It's private, but the town has some sort of access. Aaron, there was language about that.
Language in,
Sorry, in one of
The
the
town owns
records.
town fee
the town owns Longshore Lane in fee.
and fee.
However, it is privately maintained.
Okay,
We're usually not shy about adding conditions. So it seems that would make sense to me. If it's
We're
not.
more than happy to accept that's a simple solution to a simple problem.
I was thinking the same, and I kind of wish the neighbors could just work it out among themselves, but if that's not happening, then we could add a condition that some kind of gate be put in place to discourage trespassers.
Sure.
It doesn't sound like it'll be used that frequently during the year. I don't know how, we haven't gotten any indication of how many times a mower would be needed to go in there. But yeah, I think we can add a condition that every effort be made to keep trespassers off the property. I mean, I know there is fencing and there are signs, I think, aren't there?
No, there's not.
That's where it's.
Longshore Lane is a thoroughfare.
Yeah,
There's
there's
a
like
fence with,
a wooden picket fence.
but that's
kind of.
farther down.
That's not part of this
If I
property.
understand correctly.
Yeah,
There is no fence on Longshore Lane.
All
toward the
all
post
the way.
road there is.
Yes, there-
Yeah,
there's
'cause when you're in the field, when you're at the fields, you can look across and see it, or,
Absolutely.
yeah,
You'll be able to see the path. Yes, ma'am.
okay. So, yeah, let's add a condition that some effort be made to, a barrier or of some kind be made to keep trespassers off the
Can
path.
we be more specific, like a gate or a?
An aesthetically pleasing gate.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, you want something, a wooden, 2 or 3 rail gate as opposed to a cattle guard.
Right.
Guard cat.
Anybody want to try? Describe that?
As suggested by the applicant, a gate shall be installed at the entrance to the pathway to discourage trespassing.
That sounds good.
Can I ask one quick question?
No,
This,
thanks. Okay, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
And we have staff recommendations and staff motion with the additional gate.
It's only when they added it.
Number 5.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, sorry, it's within the staff report.
Yeah, it's-
I apologize, Andy.
I'll just read from the bottom. Following draft resolution is offered. The Madison Planning and Zoning Commission approves application number 24-32, Longshore Lane, map 25, lot 74-1, R2, zone R2, owner LSL LLC, applicant Lili Foggle, coastal site plan, construct 6-foot wide stone wood chip access trail to the interior of the parcel as shown on application documents with the following condition. 1, that the zoning enforcement officer be notified at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of each phase of this regulated activity. 2, that prior to any site disturbance, the applicant shall ensure the tidal wetland boundary is field staked in an effort to protect adjacent tidal wetlands and contain all activities within the upland jurisdiction of the local commission. 3, that all erosion and sedimentation controls be installed prior to any site disturbance and be maintained for the duration of construction activities until the site is sufficiently stabilized to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. 4, that the area adjacent to the tidal wetlands, the applicant shall reduce trail width to the minimum required for lawnmower access no greater than 5 feet in width. This shall be added to the plan set and submitted to the zoning enforcement officer prior to any site disturbance. And 5, that the property, the applicant install a fence.
It's up on, can you read it?
Do you want me to read? It says as, and you can modify it as you need it, as suggested by the applicant, a gate shall be installed at the entrance to the pathway to discourage trespassing.
Sounds good to me, as Aaron said.
Yeah.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right, I'll continue.
Continuing on.
In the event that changes to the approved plans are required as a result of other agency permitting to support the proposed activity, the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission reserves the right to review said changes and may require modification of this approval. This approval is made based upon the finding that the proposal is consistent with all applicable goals, policies of the Coastal Management Act, Section 25 of the Madison zoning regulations, and no adverse impacts of the coastal resources are anticipated. The applicant has revised the plans from original submission in 2023 in an effort to limit the trail width to the minimum necessary needed for lawnmower access for maintenance of the property. The effective date of this approval is November 1st, 2024.
Thank you, Andy. Have a second? Both any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Good luck. We hope it works out.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, next
Thank
on
you,
the
guys.
agenda is 24-3521 Circle Beach Road, but Aaron, as I understand, the applicant has requested to table it to the November 7th meeting, so
It's not necessarily a table, but we've had, or a request, but we've had discussion and updated plans have not yet been submitted. So it would be staff's recommendation to table this to November 7th.
could I have a motion to table? Any further discussion? All in favor? November 7th. Okay. And the next item on the agenda, 24-36, has been, the public hearing has been continued to November 7th. So next, we have a referral from the Old Elm Street Local Historic District Study Committee. Tom Boyle, Chair of the Study Committee. Thank you for your patience. Tom.
I could certainly have done this online, but I much prefer.
The ambiance of the place.
So,
Welcome.
thank you. I am Tom Boyle. I live at 390 Boston Post Road. And we've lived there since 1991. I guess that's 34 years, and raised our children there. And we're very familiar with this neighborhood. So, as I understand it, what you're interested in knowing is what is a local historic district?
Yes.
Which I'm happy to tell you. So first, I should tell you that there are 2 other local historic districts in town, extant Mack. One is surrounding the green, about 40 homes, and the other one's on Liberty Street. That's only about 14 homes. So what a local historic district is a neighborhood. And that really is the genesis of this whole idea, is to protect and preserve the neighborhood that we have. I'll show you the map I've got. Have you seen the final study report that has been produced? It was sent to.
It's been shared.
I know it's 50 pages. I don't expect you to have read it all. In any case, it really details the entire area that we're talking about. So the local historic district really is by agreement of the people that live in this area who want to preserve and protect what we've got. It starts at around now Neck Road and goes through the cemetery, both sides of the post road.
Okay.
Now, this is the western, really the western entrance to the residential part of the town. It's one of the few post road areas that is residential. So I think it's important to save that and to save that piece of Madison that really provides an entrance to the town. That's what started all this. It's also a scenic road. So preserve, protect, and enhance that neighborhood. There are about 50 homes now that are in this proposed area. Now, we've been working on this for longer than I care to admit, and we have been in contact with all the members, all of the proposed district many times. So many times that we've had to go back and see them again because houses have sold, we have new members, and we have, just as a guess, we've probably sent 20 letters over the last, period of time. We've had 5 or 6 public meetings. We have had lots of telephone calls, lots of personal visits, just to talk to people about this. We've gotten always, it's well over half the people have been very much in favor of it. There's another maybe 25%, so that brings it to 75%, who have been, oh, that sounds great, but they haven't really said, yes, we love it. There have been a few people that said, there's nothing I want to have done with this. I don't want to do it. And that's fine, we get that. And I'll show you on the map a couple that have, we've changed the map half a dozen times because of those people. Because the last thing in the world we wanted to do was to force anybody to do this. This comes to a vote in the end. So, neighborhood makeup, okay? There's about 25 or 26 truly historic homes in the neighborhood.
What qualifies as historic?
Just in the 1900s, just over 100 years.
Okay.
I'm just using that. There is a real definition for it, but it isn't necessary. What I mean is anything built really before 1925. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But there's no hard and fast rule.
Okay.
There are many homes, not many, there are a significant number of homes that are not in the least bit antique, that were built in the 50s, the 60s, 70s, a couple built, just in the last 10 years. Big question we get always, well, my home was built in 1982, and why do I need to be a member of a local historic district? It's a really good question. And the answer is part of the statutes that make these things happen. Districts have to be contiguous, nearly contiguous. So if you're going to have one, you've got to include all the homes.
Or you break them into smaller pieces.
Say again?
Or you break them into smaller pieces.
Well, then you have several districts.
Right.
Right. And it's hard, trust me, it's hard enough to get one district.
Times.
So that's the reason. And what I tell people when they bring that up, I said, we want your support. This is part of your neighborhood too. It isn't going to have as much of an effect on you because you don't have an historic home. If you do have a historic home, then there is regulations made. Okay, I'll get into that in a sec. I just want to talk about the makeup of the district first, which is so about 25 historic homes, very historic homes. William Shelley House, which was restored by Hewlett maybe 10 years ago. The Frederick Lee House right across from the Schoolhouse Deli there. George Munger House at 321 Boston Post Road, and his daughters were very accomplished artists. They're very highly involved in Madison's history. 390 Boston Post Road, where I live. Zimmer Bradley House, which was the first recorded business in the town of Madison. It's still a business because it's my office next to it. And then unfortunately, there's the Jonathan Wilcox House at 370 Boston Post Road, which was demolished in 2010 and a newer home was built. So one of the things that a local historic district would do is make it much tougher to demolish.
So that's the protection.
That's one of the protections. Any house that anytime a property owner comes before and needs a permit, that triggers a referral to the commission. Of
If
which
you're,
I'm a member.
if you're in the district, right?
And if it's an
So-
old house,
Pardon?
if it's an old house.
Right. So what they need then is what's called a certificate of appropriateness. So we look at their plans, the commission does now, look at their plans and says, that's great, or we might have some advice for them, or we might say, that's not gonna fly. You're making a beautiful old home into something that isn't beautiful and old anymore. That hasn't happened. In my experience on the commission, I've been there since its inception. But that's what triggers it, is a permit application, that's all it is. If it's a newer home, it's a minor thing, because there isn't really much. I mean, it should be in keeping with they still have to come in front of us. They still need a certificate of appropriateness. But there isn't much that we would do with those, because all they have to do is keep within keeping, they would do it anyway. I mean, nobody's gonna put a barn silo on a house. So that's how it triggers. And that's where the regulation comes in, and that's where the meat of this is the certificate of appropriateness. So here's the.
Tom, can I just
Yeah, go ahead.
add,
Please.
full disclosure, I'm on this committee.
Yeah. Well, there's two things. There's the committee, which is mostly made up of the Historic District Commission members. The committee was formed to do just this. The commission is the regulatory body that does this work. And yeah, Carol's a.
And I serve as an alternate on the Historic District Commission, and while we're at it, I live in the Madison Green Historic District. So, there, it's all out.
Oh, that was it.
Total transparency.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was gonna bring it up, but I waited for you. So this is the district. It started a while ago, down here at the salmon colored house next to the Winter Club.
I see,
The
yeah.
Winter Club, I could not convince to be in this.
I wouldn't think so.
Simple, yeah, it was an easy one for that. Also, I could not convince Kelly and Kingsley, who are dear friends of ours. Our daughter was married on their farm. But as you know, or may know, that half of this is now a new subdivision, and the front half is still, I don't know, 4 or 5 acres, and they just couldn't bring themselves to put any kind of other regulation on it. I asked them to put a little strip across, perhaps, and they just couldn't see their way clear to do it. And also the Unitarian Church was not interested, so we took them out. Couple of these had happened years ago. There's an old map that I'm gonna redo before our final meeting. These are fairly new, and they're at the beginning of the district, so that contiguous nature of it isn't affected by that. So that's it. I mean, it starts now that's Frederick Lee House. This is Neck Road here.
Yeah.
A couple houses this way, and then it stops at the cemetery, who was very much behind it. I was concerned about them. They're very much behind it.
And Tom, it connects with the Green Historic District.
It really doesn't. Here is the last. This is the last part of the Green Historic
Well,
District.
I think even the houses on the
No.
curve
No, they're not.
where the sign is.
On this side they are.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry.
That's
On the
right.
south side they are.
Right.
On the north side, it ends here.
right.
Yeah.
What are the downsides to the people who have homes in that area that are technically historic homes? Do they have appliances that they have to maintain that could affect either the value of their home, the resale, or anything else? Is that the main objection that you get? I mean,
The main objection when it comes, and it hasn't come from any of the old homeowners. It hasn't come from any of the old homeowners that I'm aware of. The main objection is, I don't need more regulations.
Yeah.
Whether it's a big effect or not, and I understand that. But, we all have to regulate. There are zoning regulations. We need these things. And that's how
I guess that's what I'm getting at. What type of regulations that would be additive we all have to live by regulations.
Sure.
But this is obviously on top of that, and that gives them pause for concern, you know, I'm just curious as to what those objections are, you know, I hate to use the word plausible, but.
Well, I can answer that two ways, okay? First of all, that in the districts that are already extant, we've had, maybe 50 applications. We have approved almost all of them. We've made modifications to some of them. And we haven't had, there hasn't been anybody in the two existing districts that's had any problem with that.
All right, so in my experience where I lived previously in Lexington, Massachusetts, they have similar historic districts. And if you're in one, there is an approved palette of colors you're allowed to.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't have that.
Okay, and
That's,
there's
in
a
Connecticut, we can't have that.
there's a requirement for maintenance of the houses that have to be maintained, and you have to have a placard.
Yeah, none of those are in our
Yeah,
regulations.
if you want to pull up the, you know, the old pine floorboards and replace them with.
Nothing on the inside. Let me tell you.
Everything on the inside.
Yeah,
is free.
Massachusetts, I'm from Massachusetts, it's a little
Right.
different.
Oh, and some historic districts are more severe than others. The way the Connecticut ones work, the way this one certainly works, it's only on the exterior.
Okay,
It's only those items visible from a public way.
okay.
Okay.
And nothing on the interior, doesn't include landscaping. It would include permanent structure like a stone wall or a fence.
Fence, yeah.
And we've had a fence.
But in reality, not that you've done this, you do have the authority, if someone wanted to put something up that's maybe considered audacious as an example, but within restrictions of the town, you guys may not like it and you could actually block that.
Absolutely. We could say, no, you can't have a certificate for that particular, the thing you want to do. But we would say, and we have many times, if you did it this way, it's going to be fine.
So you have an alternate solution.
Yeah, and we also do informal hearings, so people come in before they put in an application. And they kind of present it to us informally, and we say, here's the right way to make this happen for you.
And there are architects on the committee,
There are 3 architects on the commission.
on the historic district.
So the other thing, because you mentioned something about value, I'm a real estate appraiser, that's what I do for a living. There's been a half a dozen studies done. Historic districts typically hold value or raise value.
That would have been my thought, but I was just, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's been studied. I don't like to make a big deal of it because I've looked at these things a million times, you know. But and that is often a question. That is often, people say, oh, it's gonna devalue my property. Just the opposite typically.
You have certain buyers looking for that type of home, and other people,
Right.
you're clear, it's like having a pool, it's like, some people really want it, some people don't, you know.
Right.
like-
No, that's exactly
It's different.
The big thing we're getting now, and we're getting more and more, and we really have to address it better than we do to solar panels.
I know.
It's gotta happen. I mean, everybody's gonna have it
Yes, you
eventually.
can do a
Well, I see it all the
solar
time, that's what I do for a living, not residential.
Okay, yeah.
All the time.
So I think we've gotten 4, the commission has gotten 4 applications for solar panels. We've approved all of them. We approved 1 with the modifications. They wanted a lower story that was just right in your face kind of. So we said, you can have 4 of the solar panel areas you want, but you can't have that one. They didn't do it. I think it was probably because it didn't give them enough electricity. You know, but it's still open, so I don't know. But that's the biggest one we're seeing lately.
What about solar tiles?
Which-
If the solar.
The shingles,
Yeah, the shingles instead of.
Yeah, I can't wait for those. I think they're gonna be great.
right now they're too expensive. right?
It's too expensive, the efficiency's too low. They're mandated in California, not the tiles, but, you know, any new property that's built has to have solar integrated into the roof, which traditional panels are integrated to. So,
The other thing about the regulations is anything you're doing to replace what's already there, you don't even need a certificate.
Yeah.
You just do it. It's fine.
The same.
If it's the same material, if you're taking off a wood roof and you want to put an asphalt, you gotta come talk. Although we did approve one of those, I'm not sure to do it again. Windows are really big, because we're always looking to get windows that are appropriate for the
More
time
energy.
of the house, you know. Trying to think of any of those are the most of the regulation kind of things we get at the commission level. And those are the things, I mean, some of those things are what people say, can I do this? The first one people all say is house color, which we do not regulate.
That's what I was wondering also.
Yeah.
We actually refer to house paint as like a bad hair day. Because it can be changed again. I just wanted to also add that if you walk down the post road along the town green, the existing historic houses there, if you look behind them, you can see many, many additions and pools.
So they don't
You
face
know,
the road.
it just shows that you can do a lot with a historic house if the land is there.
I mean, this may be anecdotal, but is there any benefit to the town, you know, from an appeal perspective, from a, you know, evaluation perspective?
Well, in our-
I'm gonna argue that there is. But I'm just saying, is there, my knowledge of that is anecdotal. Is there actual factual information that says, you know, property values go up when you have more historic districts and surrounding areas or anything?
Just adds to the character.
Property values to each of the homes have been shown to go up, yeah.
At Liberty Street especially, I think.
Well, everything's going up.
Exactly. I mean,
It's
whether
very
it's
hard to
historic or
separate it
not.
out sometimes.
Yeah, there may be two things along.
But this would guard against any business trying to open in in the residential area, right?
Well, you would guard against that too, I think.
Yeah, we would.
Is it even, would it even be
Because it's all
possible?
residential
Well,
zone.
But,
No Chick-fil-A's.
but it would be,
But what about
if
a
it becomes,
foundation?
if it becomes a historical district, there's just no way you could do that. I mean.
It would have to come before us.
Right.
And I can't believe that that would be an application that would be looked upon favorably.
Isn't there a garage, like that?
Oh, there are several older places that are in the district, but they are already, Schoolhouse Deli.
Yeah, their grandfather.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing about those.
Yeah.
Nothing that's there already is gonna change.
Tom, can you talk through the process and
Oh, yeah, that's-
why you're before the commission?
Yeah.
Why the commission received the referral in the first place?
Yeah, so we have to, it's just the way it works. And again, this is all state statute and regulations. And I learned more about these in the last 6 months than I ever knew. So the study report really was the trigger for all of this, and that has now been completed. That's what took us the longest to finish. And that was done on September 23rd. That's when you guys got it.
Right.
So the next thing that happens is that we have to have a final public meeting, and it's a very important one. Because that's the one where we say to everybody, this is really happening now, very important, so we will get a big turnout. And that happens on November the 13th. No, that's when the invitation sent, excuse me.
Yeah.
That happens on
December 10th.
December the 10th. That's the final meeting. But then, that report, after the final public meeting, and there might be some objections, wouldn't shock me if this changed a little bit after that. Somebody raised their hand and said, God, nothing I want to have to do with this, you know. Now, if we get too many, we're gonna have a problem. Because we're gonna start to have holes in here that you can't have. But we're gonna cross that bridge when we come to it. So then that report has to be submitted from any changes from the public meeting back to you and back to the ECD. You have to look at it again. Then ballots go out. The last date at which ballots can go out, because all this was 65 to 130 days between each of these things. The last date for the ballots is April 19th. I want to get them out on April 2nd. And then they have, 15 or 20 days to return those ballots. It's a 2/3 vote. And it's 2/3 of the property owners. So my wife and I own our house together, we each get half a vote. If there's 5 owners, they each get a fifth of a vote. It's just kind of the way it works.
Okay.
Let's see. So the ballots must be returned by April 23rd. Legal notices, so forth, so on. Legal notices for all that happens. So assuming an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the property owners on June 25th, the Board of Selectmen has 65 days to either accept the report and enact an ordinance to actually make it happen. And it goes on the land record. It's a real thing. And, or reject the report or return the report to the committee for small revisions. So we're still a ways away from all this. But June is the deadline for everything to happen.
Any other questions?
No, thank you for coming.
Oh, pleasure.
Thanks for that
Pleasure.
explanation.
Well, I need to practice because I have a big meeting coming up, so I have to make sure I'm prepared.
So the commission has the opportunity to make formal comments back to the study committee. If you choose to do that, I think it's more from a planning hat, right? And my recommendation would be to look to your most recently approved P O C D for policies. One that I did locate on your behalf is policy C.
Remember?
Happens to say, we've had quite a bit of discussion on historic preservation, and policy C in the new P O C D states to preserve, one of the goals is to preserve and promote Madison's historical and cultural landmarks, both public and private. And under that goal, one of the actions is to develop long-range preservation for Madison, which you have various considerations within there, one of which is to develop regulations and incentives to protect historic resources. So I think appropriately, historic districts fall under that.
I see.
So I don't know if you want to have more discussions about this, or if you have any other comments. I'm happy to draft your comments
I just
to
need-
the committee.
I just needed to understand the scope of it. I think he provided just what I needed.
I thought that would be helpful.
Very useful.
Yeah, and we did talk about it in the context of the P O C D.
Yeah.
And you've got time. What?
You had 65 days from referral.
Right.
Yes, so if you'd like, I can draft some general language up for you to send out, and you can finalize at the next meeting and get back
Sure,
to the committee.
if we need to, yeah. Sounds good. Thank you, Mom. Okay, thanks.
Janet, did you have anything else? Or that sound good to you?
Hi, Janet.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Pleasure. Take care.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, we have a bond release to discuss. Seashore Construction is requested to release one-year road maintenance bond for Sandy Hollow Subdivision, Dairy Hill Extension in the amount of $3,550. Aaron, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, last year, the commission voted to favorably recommend the acceptance of the road to the Board of Selectmen. And as part of the subdivision regulations, there's a requirement to hold a one-year maintenance bond at 5% of the original amount. That has come and gone, and the developer is now seeking a release of that.
And that would return the funds to him.
Yes, it's held in an escrow account currently.
And it's
So
been
you-
inspected and everything.
Yes, the town engineer did go out again after we received the request and said he was comfortable with the release as well.
Any motion, or does someone like to make a motion?
It's very short.
Very good.
It's the short one.
Okay, voted that the Planning and Zoning Commission releases the one-year maintenance bond associated with road construction for Sandy Hollow Subdivision, Dairy Hill Road Extension, in the amount of $3,550. The effective date of this approval shall be November 1st, 2024.
Thank you. Second. We're good. Any further discussion? All in favor? Great. Approved. All right, and so we have approval of minutes.
Sure.
Before we do Zach.
October 3rd, 2024, Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, members present, Downs, Reinhardt, Snow, Morgan, Lisa, Bogda, Peckinpah, and O'Connor. Motion for approval. Michael, second.
Second.
Carol, any comments, editorial suggestions?
And maybe this for Aaron, what's the legal document that people would refer to for our meetings? Is it the minutes plus the Zoom record or the
Transcripts.
the transcripts or the actual video? What?
In what context do
Well,
you mean?
well, I
And
guess
the
the
minute-
question kind of goes back to in the minutes, we had a pretty robust discussion about one of the the Tremaine,
Yeah.
application. And it was, the minutes have a very, short, succinct summary of that. Does that cause any documenting issues or?
Generally speaking, minutes are required to document the actions of the commission, so and they should not be verbatim transcripts. So a general discussion is acceptable in the minutes. In the case of an appeal, that is when we go back and order a transcriptionist to do a verbatim transcript. So the courts do require that verbatim. And you know, we're sort of at this, we have a benefit now of having everything on Zoom.
YouTube, yeah.
Recordings, yeah, to be able to watch them. But technically, the minutes do not have to be as, they should clearly document the motions, who votes in, you know, how members vote and what the actual resolutions are. But the discussion is not.
So the deliberations are recorded and available if needed. But
Well, I mean, the
Yeah,
general
part of the
concept is captured in the minutes, yes. But they don't have to go into that level of detail,
Okay.
no.
Fair enough.
Good to know.
You'll notice that at the next meeting because I have to do the minutes for this meeting.
Well, it struck us.
Discussion happened, it was approved, okay.
Yeah, it struck us for that last one, I think, that was.
And there was a lot of discussion.
that was a
If there's
torturous
something
ordeal.
relevant that you think was omitted, this is the time to make those comments and then in taking minutes for this meeting, we acknowledge the changes.
But it's helpful to know that it's really the end result that's significant for the minutes. You know, how
No, right.
the motion, the vote,
Who's here?
Yeah, it's really a record of action.
record of action.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, and also we saw with the ledgers exactly how much detail we can get.
The transcript includes coughs
That's right.
and all my ums.
It's all there.
All there.
They're expensive.
We still need to approve these.
Yes.
Well, regarding these, Raquel was right on. I don't have any corrections. Vote to approve. All in favor? Great.
Thank you. Great. Any other comments none from me?
Thank you.
Better motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Any discussion? Thank you. Thank you, Janet.
Thanks, Janet. Good night.